Hello everyone, welcome to another Voice Essentials live hangout. I've just got to adjust my ears here for a second. Good to have you all join us for this Monday afternoon for our live hangout. And this is going to be an interesting hour simply because my guest, I think, has been waylaid. He's not able to join us, certainly hasn't been able to join us so far, so maybe Dr. Matthew Edwards will chime in during the show. It will be interesting if he does while we're live, and that will make for a bit of fun. Worst comes to worst, we'll try to get him onto the show next week, or I'll certainly let us know when we're able to reschedule him. I know Dr. Matthew Edwards is such a busy guy, so and recently has been pulling 12-hour days. So look, regardless, we'll get him onto the show at some stage. And so, to be honest with you, I haven't got anything else organised to do, so I think we're going to be able to dedicate the entire session today to just doing live Q&A, which, you know, it's good to do that every now and then because we don't, you know, we've had so many great guests on the show, and I'm sure we'll get Dr. Edwards on here eventually. But, you know, having so many good people join us on the show and provide us with such great information, and of course, you know, we talk about some really interesting topics here. Sometimes we don't get the opportunity to answer your questions. And in fact, talking of which, I'm just going to jump over here, and so we've got Karen and Linda jumping in here, Matt, Jing DBZ, hi guys, nice to see you, ho mama, good to see you all jumping in, so thank you for joining us. Hey, here's a question, did you watch the wedding of the century during the weekend? Am I the only person on the planet who did not watch the wedding? Actually, I already know I am because I was in Dolby, which is about 3 hours west of where I am currently. And for my son's tennis weekend, as you know, I take my son away a little bit for tennis. And my mate and I, we did not, because my mate and his son go to the same tennis comp, we didn't watch the wedding. So did you enjoy it? There's a lot of talk, isn't there, about the passion of the delivery of the sermon. When was the last time you can remember a sermon upstaging the bride at such an international event? And in many respects, I saw one commentary on it. Never was the difference between two cultures so evident as Sunday's wedding, or was it Saturday England's time? I'm not sure. So did you watch the wedding? Let us know in the live chat and maybe tell us what you thought. Hey, also, given that I think today is going to be mostly about your live questions, now's the time to start asking them. Linda is going to be putting your questions together and collating them, and so I want to answer as many of your questions as we possibly can today over the next 25 minutes or so. Rest assured, because I know Dr. Matthew Edwards was really keen and excited to be on today's show, so hey, look, at the very least, I hope everything is okay with him and that nothing, you know, untowards has befallen him or maybe even a family member, because it is late in his part of the world where he would be joining us, so very much hope everything is okay. So we will get him onto the show at some stage. You never know, he may even chime in during today's show, and as I said, if that happens, that will be interesting. That'll be a first for me, to have someone chime in right in the middle, because he may not even realize that we're live when he chimes in. So let's have a conversation. Let's get into some questions, and we'll do that right after this.
Sound check. Check 1, check 2.
So don't forget to also let us know where you are in the world, and Dr. Matthew Edwards is in the US. I'm here in Brisbane, Australia, and so it's 2 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. We have got some cold weather starting to chime in. It was -3 in a place called Applethorpe, which is probably about 2.5 hours sort of southwest of where I am now. This morning it was sort of around about 10 degrees when we woke up. What is the weather like in your part of the world? Let us all know. And hey, if you're new here, please take the time in the live chat to introduce yourself. And of course, if you're not new, and then let us say g'day. And I'm a little bit. My mind is racing at 1,000,000 miles an hour. I don't know if you can see that through the screen. My brain is going at 1,000,000 miles an hour as we sort of make up for the fact that our guest, it would seem, is not going to be able to join us. So let's get straight to a question. And where am I going here? I think we've got... So Matt has asked a question. Now, Matt's one of our regulars. And that's what I went to say. If you are new to the channel, if you've never chimed in here before, and hey, if you're watching this as replay, I know some of you will have chimed in because you were really keen to hear Dr. Matthew Edwards talk. If you're watching this as a replay, apologies first up that he can't be with us, and we certainly hope he's okay. But nonetheless, if this is the first time you ever joined, hey, why don't you hit the subscribe button and the white bell icon? You can join our ever-growing community of singers from across the globe who, just like you, want to raise their voice in song. We are an encouraging community of developing singers and many professional singers who are seeking to develop their voice in the best way possible. And we're seeking to do that using fact-based information. And so you'd be welcome to join our ever-growing community. We would love to have you join our ranks. And there's over 35,000 of us approximately. And so we would love you to be a part of us. Of course, if you're watching this as a replay, you can leave your questions in the comments section below, and I will do my best to answer them. And if you do have a question for Dr. Edwards, rest assured, we will get him onto the show at another date. I hope perhaps next week, but of course I can't promise that. And when we do, then we'll be able to, if you leave your question in the comments section, and not knowing that you may not get to do see the live show, and then maybe this is an opportunity actually for you to be able to have your question asked of Dr. Edwards when he comes on. So let's have a look here at some questions. And now Matt's actually asked a question of Dr. Edwards, and in fact we might actually bump that over, Matt, into when Dr. Edwards comes. He says Matt's asking a question. In fact, I can go. Let me just do this because I think that would be a good thing for us to do, just to show that we do have some live questions going on. There's quite a few of you here, which is always great. That is, Matt's asked, which type of metal vocals is more damaging, the high-pitched scream of Bruce Dickinson or growl screaming? Can I encourage, and it will be interesting to hear what Dr. Edwards has to say about this, because he really has some knowledge in this area. Let me throw my 2 bobs worth in. Can I encourage us to not necessarily think of, for example, heavy metal vocals as inherently damaging? And that change in thought process can be really helpful. So if we think of metal vocals, heavy vocals, what many vocal pedagogues refer to as distorted vocals, if we think of them more as a high-cost item, so instead of thinking of them as something that if you do it, it is definitely going to damage your voice, then we're better placed, I think. We're coming at it from a far more positive angle. Now, it's not only positive thinking that's going to help you avoid vocal injury, but certainly you know, if you're approaching it from the point of view of this is going to damage my voice, how can I simply mitigate that? Then that is not as helpful as if you come at it from the point of view of this vocal style that I'm about to employ, this vocal technique, this method is high cost. Then what you can go looking to do is to manage the cost. And certainly, look, any type of singing, any type of genre can be damaging to your voice if you do it mindlessly, with poor technique, and that goes for classical singing right through to heavy metal. It's not purely the genre that is damaging, it's the manner in which you do the genre. And so it can be really helpful, Matt, and we'll put the question to Dr. Edwards when he comes on for you, but I think that's just a helpful sort of adjustment to the way we can approach that question. Avishek Subadai, I have range of A3 to D5, but it's thin AF. How to make it heavier? It's thin AF. I wonder what AF might stand for. The thing with that A3 to how do you make it heavier? There is certainly the vocalist muscle, the muscle that is going to give you a heavier sound, certainly is a muscle that you can bulk, that you can, by placing it under more load, we can actually strengthen and bulk that muscle so that it is more able to carry load. Now, I've got a new video coming out in a few weeks' time where I look at an article with you by Dr. Hock and Dr. Mary Sandage, and they talk about the exercise physiology principles of voice. One of those exercise physiology principles is the overload principle. And the overload principle talks about extending the voice, placing the voice under extra load so that the voice learns to carry that load. And we build up to that slowly but surely. Think of someone who is doing weight training. You don't immediately go over to a 100, of course I certainly wouldn't go over to a 100 kilogram, dumbbell and just suddenly pick it up. You would, if you were me, you would start at 15 kilograms, maybe even lighter, and you would slowly but surely place extra load upon the dumbbell, and as you build up to and develop the technique to carry that extra load, the muscles bulk. You can't really see any muscle on me. I'm not built for weightlifting. But nonetheless, yeah, I think you get the illustration, the analogy. We slowly bulk the muscles by virtue of the extra load that they learn to take on. And so you can learn to make the vocals heavier. Now, bulk of the muscle is not the only aspect of heavier vocal. We also need a greater level of mass of what the surface area of the vocal folds coming together. And we also need to develop a thing called a longer quotient, a longer closed quotient of the vocal folds. And we start to talk about different things when it comes to voice. I'm just checking something here. No, I was hoping maybe we had Dr. Matthew Edwards, getting all mixed up this afternoon. See, I don't even know where I am. Okay, so hopefully that is helpful to you, Avishek, and then the other thing about heavier vocals too is then we have to think about the resonance of what that tone is, then the vocal tract and the shapes that resonance is flowing through. Because if you have a really high larynx with a very narrow vocal tract, the acoustic is going to thin. The post-production of that sound is going to thin and maybe thin that sound out. And so you'll lose any work that you may have established at the level of the vocal folds. Incidentally, I've been telling you about the big video that's coming out that's going to go live in the next few weeks. We have got it to final draft. I can't remember whether last week I told you what the subject matter of it is. It is about how the singing voice works. And I've had it reviewed by a laryngologist, a international singing voice specialist, a really great singing teacher, and it's getting the thumbs up. I think it's going to be an exciting tool, firstly for you as developing singers, to just have a little bit more clarity around the mechanics of the voice and also the acoustics of the voice. And then I think it will also prove to be a really great tool if you are a singing teacher and you're wanting to give someone a 7-minute video to watch to just have a little bit more understanding about how the human voice creates sound and the challenges that we singers face in the multiplicity of setups that we have to manage. Then this video is going to be for you, and I'm really hoping you'll support it by not only watching it the whole way through, but then by sharing it on all of your socials. So keep an eye out for it. It is coming. We are so close. My very dedicated video producer and animator has been doing such great work again, and I'm very thankful to her. And she's over in Austria, so right now she's hopefully catching some Z's. Okay, let's come down here. Ho Mama, is it possible to become a baritone? I'm a baritone for sure, but I can now hit higher notes, nearly like 80s rock. Very cool, Ho Mama. So here's the deal. This is such a controversial subject. In fact, I was involved in an online discussion on Facebook during the weekend, in amongst watching my son do some tennis, and there was a raging debate over this kind of a similar subject. Voice classification has limited use within contemporary vocals, and when I say limited, I'm not saying none. But it's not something that we find ourselves overly dedicated to when we talk about the use of our voice. But I do know where you're coming from, Ho Mama, in the sense that when we think about the traditional vocal registration of baritone, we're generally talking about something that might go down from G2, maybe even down to F2, that comes all the way up to, G4, and then might have some falsetto above that. And so we're talking about that kind of range. And yet a lot of contemporary vocals are going to require notes that sit above that G4. And so, when people who have, for a period of time, classified themselves as baritone, find that they are able to technically develop the skill to achieve A flats, A's, dare I say B flats, suddenly they go, has my voice classification changed? And some pedagogues, let's call it for what it is, some pedagogues would say yes. They would say yes, it has changed. I'm not so convinced. I probably think to myself, well, the anatomy hasn't suddenly changed. The manner in which the singer is able to use that anatomy has changed. And so we are then able to recognize that the way that person is using the voice, in your case, Ho Mama, the very fact that you are now hitting high notes similar to 80s rock. Love 80s rock. How good is 80s rock? Sometimes I wish we could go back to 80s rock. I'm really showing my age. And so there's some really great benefits to not putting a big stamp on your forehead that says baritone or alto or mezzo, but simply exploring your own anatomy and seeing what your own anatomy will let you do, not what your traditional voice classification will tell you. Now, it just so turns out that in the big video that I've got coming up, How Does a Singing Voice Work?, I actually am listing the traditional approximate voice classification notes and oscillation figures for those notes. But that, I hope, that is not about then putting a big stamp on anyone's forehead to say if you're a baritone, if you can sing an A flat, then you're not a baritone, because a G4 is all that a baritone can go to. Try not to hold yourself into a box like that. Do you know what? I've just had another thought that about my time with Dr. Edwards, and it may well be that we've had a confusion in the international time, and it may well be that Dr. Edwards is going to try to chime in about 40 minutes' time. I hope that's not the case. I hope we've, well, look, that would be great, wouldn't it, if that is actually the case, because it means nothing's happened bad to him where he is. So here we go. Coming down here for some more discussion points. Fancy the bold. Where are the best places to place your voice? Interesting question. Where are the best where are the best places to place your voice? It's actually determined by what you are aesthetically trying to achieve. So that needs to be stated up front. However, generally what we try to do, what I try to do with my clients, with my students, is I try to orientate the singer to a habitually neutral, healthy, sustainable tone. And that's generally a clean, forward placement that is balanced. And I saw a debate going on over the use of the word balanced recently. Vocal pedagogues really get uptight, don't they, about the use of terms. I have no issue over the use of the term balance when it comes to thinking about the way we mechanically use our voice. I think it's important to go looking for a muscular balance. So I'm orientating students to a forward placement. Now, does that mean you should always have forward placement? No, it does not. There are times where you have to make or you will want to make an aesthetic choice driven by the narrative of the piece that does not warrant a forward placement. And so you will need to explore, where do you place that? And I often find myself saying to some of my students, there are no wrongs in this game called singing, especially in contemporary vocals. We've got to get away from this thing that says, that's wrong, don't do that. Because the moment we do that, we really do run the risk of crushing creativity, because we're immediately harnessing and trying to restrict what we can or can't do. Now, I know there's going to be comments to that, so let me qualify. I am not saying that we throw caution to the wind, stand in front of a wall and scream our heads off. And you would only have to watch a handful of my 350 videos here on YouTube to know that I would never advocate for that. However, what I'm advocating for is we've got to get away from this idea that says there's right and wrong. There may well be good, better and best. There might be that which is permissible and that which is profitable, but I think we've got to be careful by going black, white, right, wrong, on, off. There is far more nuance in our delivery of voice than that. And if you are only ever hot, cold, black, white, then you are restricting your options for aesthetic choice. And so when it comes to where can I place my sound, well, you can place your sound wherever you like. Habitually, I want you to orientate from a sense of forward placement, but but that does not mean that that's where you have to be 100% of the time. I hope that's helpful. Cockney, good to see you, Cockney. Hey Dan, please could you make a tutorial on how to develop the high falsetto register? Cockney, you are in luck, because there is a video that went live only a matter of 3 or 4 weeks ago, I think. It's very recent, where I talk about how to develop the falsetto register. You've got to jump across onto the channel and have a gaze at that video. It is going to give you some exercise. And so to answer your question, can I? Yes, already done it. And hopefully you'll find that helpful. Desiree Rounds, how do you describe the dynamics of, say, Axl Rose's screams while performing? Well, he at times has used his voice amazingly, you know, with wonderful expression and ease. But we would also have to say that there are times, I think, where Axl has displayed not so wonderful ease in his singing. And so I would dare say that at times Axl has run into vocal difficulties. I don't actually know, and I'm not current with his vocal health history, so I'm speaking into the void here. But having heard him and also knowing the load, the performance load that voice would have been under, no singer is going to get it 100% right 100% of the time. That, you know, if that's what you're aiming for, I dare say you're setting yourself up for a very frustrating performance career. And I'd be surprised if Axl Rose has set himself up with that as the ultimate goal. So let's, you know, I think that has to be said. No one's expecting perfection of any singer. But nonetheless, whether his screams are, you know, fully healthy, it all comes down to what is profitable and what is beneficial. And I would dare say some at times Axl Rose's screams have been high cost, super high cost, and perhaps too high a cost. But nonetheless, one can't dispute the success of Guns N' Roses and Axl Rose as a singer. So we've got, how are we going for time? Do you know, I'm half expecting, because we were supposed to have Dr. Matthew Edwards was going to be joining me at 1:30, half an hour before the show starts. We're about to hit the 2:30 mark, and we may well have Dr. Matthew Edwards chime in at that point. I'm not sure, but you never know. I have trouble singing, this is Super Special World. I have trouble singing low notes because I have an extremely soft male voice. Any tips? Well, I do have some tips. Thank you. I would like to sing lower within my range, but my voice is very soft. What can I do to sing a bit lower? Super Special World, great question. And once again, I'm going to direct you to a video that I dedicated to this question a number of months ago. If you go to the channel page, the video, so if you go across to the channel, there's a link in the description section below. If you go to the videos tab on the channel page, and probably you won't have to scroll far down to find low notes. And from memory, I think you can even search in the videos tab. I can't remember, and you can search that question and see how you go. So we don't have any more questions coming in, which is completely understandable. We've just spent the last 30 minutes answering questions, and do you know what? I think we might call it a day there, because I don't want to hold you any longer than we have. And I know you've all got a big week. I hope you've all had a great weekend. Look, dare I ask you to give today's video a thumbs up, if not only for the fact that I've been doing this on my unannounced feed here. So freestyle, as it were. So I think we might actually call it a day. I really hope you've enjoyed our little hangout. As you know, we do these live hangouts every Monday, Australian Eastern Standard Time. Every second week we have a guest come on, and it is my hope that we will have a guest come on. Our guest that would have been here today, Dr. Matthew Edges. I'm going to try and see if we can organise to have him join us next week, and see if we can reorganise that, and hopefully he's okay. I really hope to see you again soon. Don't forget, we've got videos. Let me just jump over here. I just want to change something here. Don't forget, we've got videos that go live on Wednesday and Friday. If you subscribe and if you hit the white bell icon, you'll be notified by the whole YouTube system, and you'll also always know when I'm going live with the Monday videos. I very much look forward to seeing you I'll see you hopefully in a couple of days' time in the pre-record video, where we're going to talk about antidepressants, drugs, and the effect of those on the voice. And I hope you'll tune into that. It's really, I think it's informative, and hopefully it'll be very helpful to many of you. I look forward to seeing you again soon. I'm Dr. Dan. Sing well.